Michigan won the Big Ten Championship on the field for a third consecutive year. Did they win the Big Ten Championship in your living room? Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Break down the game we all love each and every day with who? You! Best discussion, debate, and analysis. Please check out the series we posted about a month ago comparing the conferences in TV ratings and viewership. A lot to be taken from those videos. Now we grind it down through the Big Ten and look at the most popular teams on TV in the Big Ten, and we will put it into context because it's not simply just about the numbers, but of course what networks aired the games. Of course, the networks are going to vie for the better teams and the better brands, and that's a big advantage to all of this. But again, they are the bigger brands, and that's why the TV networks want to show them. So let's look at the numbers in Big Ten games only. We want to make this a fair fight and make this as valid a comparison as possible. So we will look at the non-conference games, but the best barometer is to look at conference games, and Ohio State had more viewership than anyone by a decent number. 6.57 million people on average watched Ohio State play Big Ten games. We've got the ratings for all the games in the Big Ten, excluding when games were played on Peacock. So Ohio State and Purdue played on Peacock. So the other 8 Ohio State games were played on Fox, NBC, CBS, and the Big Ten Network. And again, Ohio State with 52.6 million viewers for the season in the Big Ten was number one, followed by Michigan at 52 million and change. All 9 Michigan Big Ten games were played on Fox, NBC, and the Big Ten Network. The one non-conference game that Michigan played, East Carolina, that was their one appearance on the Peacock Network. Michigan averaged almost 5.8 million viewers in Big Ten games. Penn State was at number 3. That's no big surprise. Over 4 million viewers for Penn State Big Ten games. Over 9 million watched them play Michigan. Almost 10 million watched them play Ohio State. They played all 9 of their games on network television within the Big Ten. Nebraska is at number 4 despite a down 5-7 season, another subpar season in Matt Rule's first year in Lincoln. Nebraska drew viewers, 19 plus million for their 8 Big Ten games. The one against Maryland was played on Peacock. 5th best in the Big Ten in regards to TV viewers. Iowa at 2.24 million per contest. They had 7 games of their 9 played on the networks, and the other 2 played on Peacock, followed by Maryland at just under 2 million per contest with 8 of 9 Big Ten games played on those networks. Then you've got at number 7, Michigan State, followed by Minnesota, Indiana, and the further we go down the list, the less games are played by the likes of Indiana and Illinois, Purdue, and the rest of the bottom of the Big Ten on Fox, NBC, and CBS, and more on the Big Ten Network. For example, Illinois played 3 games on the Big Ten Network, 3 on FS1. Indiana played 6 games on the Big Ten Network, and you see more games again. Rutgers in particular, 11th in the Big Ten in TV viewership at 1.4 million per contest. 5 of their games played on the Big Ten Network, and they played 1 on FS1. The non-conference scheduling format and approach for most teams in the power conferences is pretty similar. Play 1 power conference team, and then the other games are against a group of 5 and a few FCS sprinkled in. There were therefore only a handful of games that really ranked and rated well in Big Ten households and across the nation. Out of conference, of course, Ohio State and Notre Dame was by far the most watched out of conference game at 10 million on NBC. Also, because of the Deion Sanders impact and the Colorado popularity, Nebraska, Colorado on Fox at 8.7 million. In total, there were 7 non-conference games played by Big Ten teams that had over 2 million viewers. Ohio State had 2 of those. Consider that even playing Western Kentucky on Fox drew 2.8 million viewers. And when Michigan teed it up against UNLV, almost 3 million viewers on CBS. On the other end of the spectrum, you had teams like Illinois averaging 640,000 viewers for Kansas, Toledo, and FAU. Indiana at less than 500,000 for the likes of Indiana State, Louisville, and Akron. The Louisville-Indiana game was on BTN Regional at 828,000 folks. Purdue played a decent non-conference schedule with Syracuse, Fresno State, and Virginia Tech, but only averaged 630,000, topped off by the Syracuse game at 1.25 million. Some of the more dismal games in regards to viewership: when Maryland and Towson got together on the Big Ten Network, 102,000 people watched it. Northwestern and Howard at 71,000. We see Illinois and FAU at 273,000. Illinois and Toledo, really good football game, went down to a last-second field goal at 294,000. And that's how they stack up in the Big Ten in non-conference play. Of course, the trifecta of Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, those three games played between those three, accounted for over 38 million views. Michigan, Iowa, over 10 million viewers in the Big Ten championship game. That was number 2, a distant second to Alabama and Georgia in the SEC title game. And then Michigan moved on to the college football playoff, and people watched it, of course. More people watched because of the obvious brand draw, and also it was a great, great game that went to overtime. Michigan-Bama at 27.8 million. If you want to see how that stacks up through the years against other college football playoff games and championship games, check out the videos in our previous series, and we will list those in the comments section. Michigan-Washington, the championship game at 25 million, or 2.7 million less than the semifinal Rose Bowl game. Ohio State and Missouri played in the Cotton Bowl in front of almost 10 million on television and streaming. Penn State and Ole Miss at 7.8 million, and on down the line. Iowa, Tennessee, that was an ABC game, and despite it being a 35-0 yawner, 6.8 million watched it. Wisconsin, LSU, that was on ESPN2. And if you know about TV ratings and viewership between ESPN and ESPN2, there is a substantial drop-off. So that's an impressive number in a really good football game. 4.6 million watch the Badgers and the Bayou Bengals. Rutgers and Miami. More people watch Rutgers football, at least outside of their contests against Ohio State and Michigan, I should say, once they kicked off against Miami at the Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium on ESPN. And there you see Maryland, Auburn, Minnesota, Bowling Green, and Northwestern and Utah. And again, despite the lack of interest supposedly in bowl games, and despite players opting out, despite these being considered exhibitions by many, more people watch these games than watch 80 to 90% of college football games throughout the regular season. So just a fun little exercise, doesn't necessarily prove anything except what we already know. You can go the Ohio State route, you can go the Michigan route. We can put it into context as we've attempted to do. I would say that Ohio State is slightly a more popular brand, but again, it's extremely close. Penn State's right in there, but definitely behind the other two, and then it goes down from there. Nebraska, probably the most impressive on this list, considering they've not been to a bowl game since 2016. The Huskers have the longest bowl drought of any team in the country in the Power 5, and they still draw the 4th best in the Big Ten, and they only played one big brand from the East, and that was Michigan. So they didn't play Penn State, they didn't play Ohio State to boost up those numbers, and still Nebraska draws viewers. Leave your comments down below. Please hit the like button. Support us here at the Voice of College Football. That's an easy way to do it. Also, Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App are welcome as we continue to break down the game we all love each and every day with you. Big Ten Live Show comes up every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Give me a call.